Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I'm Dragonfly9078, and today I'm building Edna Mode from The Incredibles. No vote this week, next week is a Patreon build, so hey, maybe check out my Patreon if you want to be in on that. So what do we want from this build? Well, we need to make clothes, specifically supersuits that protect our clients and enhance their powers. That said, there are a couple of restrictions I'll be abiding by. Number one is that the clothes shouldn't give the supers additional powers that they don't naturally have. Edna's suits are primarily for protection, so a suit that's fireproof or that helps someone be a little bit sneakier is fine, one that lets them fly when they normally can't is not. And of course, we can't make any capes. No capes, no cloaks, even robes are a little bit too billowy. Close-fitting suits only. Looking over at ability scores, I'll be using the standard point array. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your intelligence is high enough to multiclass. Starting off by dumping strength. We don't need it for anything. Dexterity's 13 for clever fingers to sew quickly, and constitution will be 10. That's a little bit low for how much sheer energy Edna seems to have, so we'll bump it up later, but it's not the most crucial stat for us. Intelligence is 14. She works with cutting-edge materials that she may or may not create herself to work with a variety of powers. Then wisdom is 12, since she has a tendency to cut through drama and find direct solutions, and charisma is 15, because of her incredible force of personality. Seriously, she only has like 5 minutes of screen time in the first movie, and she's easily one of the most memorable parts of it. Edna's defining characteristics are that she's a brilliant, if eccentric, craftswoman who's a little bit vertically challenged, so we'll make her a rock gnome. That'll bump our intelligence to 16 and our constitution to 11, along with giving us 60 feet of dark vision and advantage on any saves against magic that use our intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Rock gnomes in particular know Artificer's lore, letting us add double our proficiency to any history checks we make regarding magical, technological, or alchemical items. We don't even actually need to be proficient in history to use this, which is great, because in her own words, Edna never looks back, it distracts from the now. But she does know all the details about the super's cape-related accidents. Presumably, those capes would be part of magical supersuits, so those details would qualify as Artificer's lore. We also get proficiency with Tinker's tools, and can use them to tinker. By spending 10 gold worth of materials and an hour of work, we can make a tiny device, either a little moving toy, a fire starter, or a music box. We can have 3 devices made at once, and they work for a full day unless we spend an hour repairing them to work longer. The music box is probably the most in character, I would say, so we can play some Mozart for Jack Jack. We make a living as a fashion designer, so Guild Artisan makes the most sense for our background, giving us proficiency in Insight and Persuasion, and with Weaver's tools. Then I'm sure it won't come as a surprise that we'll be starting off as an Artificer. That gets us Arcana and Perception, along with Thieves' tools, Tinker's tools, and 1 set of Artisan's tools. We'll take Cobbler's tools to make shoes for our supersuits, and since we already have Tinker tool proficiency from being a rock gnome, we can switch that out for Leatherworker's tools. We're a magical tinkerer, meaning we can add minor magical properties to tiny objects, making them glow, play a sound, display a message, that kind of minor sensory stuff. Then spells aren't really Edna's forte, so we're not going to focus too much on them, but we can pick up guidance to give advice and mending for obvious reasons. We do have access to all the first level Artificer spells, so if you want to pick some up, then feel free, there's some decent options. Longstrider, Jump, Identify, and Detect Magic are probably the ones I would say fit Edna the best. More important for Edna are our infusions, special magic items that we can make and hand out to our clients. Enhanced Defense goes on armor and boosts the wearer's AC by 1, and then goes up to +2 once we hit 10th level. Probably want to give that one to either Helen or Violet. Bob is already kind of a tank, so he doesn't really need the extra armor. We could give it to Dash, but I actually want to give him Clothes of Mending, which automatically repair themselves of wear and tear, so they won't wear out from his super speed. We'll also learn to make a Cleansing Stone, a stone that completely cleans clothes when touched. Supers get into all sorts of weird messes, so an all-purpose cleaner is almost necessary when they bring their suits in for repair. Judging by her house, Edna is at least slightly on the rich side, so we can either buy or make the right tool for any job, spending an hour to create a set of non-magical artisan's tools, though we can only have 1 set from this feature made at a time. We do pick a specialty at this level, but just like the spells, it isn't that crucial. We're really an Artificer just for the infusions. That said, we do have to pick one, so we'll pick Artillerist. Armorer would be a great pick, but the benefits of their special armor really only work for the armorer themselves, so we wouldn't be able to give it away, and Edna herself doesn't really wear special armor. Artillerists get proficiency with Woodcarver's tools, Shield and Thunderwave as spells that are always prepared, and the ability to summon an Eldritch Cannon. This can take the form of a flamethrower that spews a 15-foot cone of flame, a ballista that fires a bolt of force at a single target, or a protector that gives temporary HP to creatures of our choice within 30 feet of it. Since we don't really get into combat, the Eldritch Cannon can serve as our security against unauthorized visitors, or, more practically, as a way to test our outfits and see how they stand up to fire and force damage. Basically, we have to take a specialty, we took Artillerist, and we'll be using pretty much everything in it, almost exclusively for QA testing. Wonder Maker is a Rock Gnome exclusive feat that makes us better at tinkering. Our intelligence goes up by 1, we get expertise with our Tinker's tools, and we get a few more options for devices to make with our Tinker trait. In addition to the toy, music box, and fire starter from before, we can now make a proximity alarm, useful for tracking Jack, along with a calculator, timekeeping device, a lifter to carry heavy loads, and a sensor to predict the weather for the next 4 hours. 5th level Artillerists get Scorching Ray and Shatter, and can make an arcane firearm, a special staff that increases the damage of our Artificer spells by a d8. Again, spells aren't really our thing, but 8 is likely the most in character of the 2nd level spells, providing a bit of extra padding to a creature's max HP for 8 hours. I also want to call out Invisibility, which we'll use for Violet's suit a little bit later. At 6th level we get expertise with all tools that we're proficient with, along with a few more infusions. Speaking of Violet's suit, the boots of Elvenkind fit her like a glove, making her steps completely silent and giving her advantage on stealth checks that rely on moving quietly. Should make her even harder to detect when she goes invisible. There's also Resistant Armor, which protects the wearer from an energy type of our choice, good for making fireproof clothes for when Jack does his best campfire impression. As a great artist, it's only natural that we'd get flashes of genius. A number of times per day equal to our intelligence modifier, we can use our reaction to add our intelligence modifier to an ability check or save that we or an ally within 30 feet makes. Then we'll round off our intelligence and dexterity to 18 and 14 respectively with our ASI at 8th level. 9th level brings us 3rd level spells, like Fireball and Wind Wall from the Artillerist. Our product testing cannons also deal an extra d8 of damage, and we can make them explode at will. As for other 3rd level spells, there's some decent support options. Fly, Revivify, Haste, but the one I think is most in character for Edna is Catnap, which lets us take a short rest in only 10 minutes, letting us stop wasting time and get back to work, though we can't benefit from the spell again until we actually sleep at night and take a long rest. At 10th level we become a Magic Item Adept, letting us attune to up to 4 magic items instead of 3, and reducing our overheads by quartering the time and halving the gold it takes us to craft common and uncommon magic items. That's a good point, actually. There are rules for crafting magic items in D&D. We don't need to rely exclusively on our infusions to outfit our friends. I won't go into all that because crafting tends to be more dependent on your DM, but it is a thing that exists in the game that you might want to look into if you're playing Edna or someone like her. We can pick up Mage Hand at this level, and some more infusions as well. Hat of Disguise is really just to provide an excuse as to why those little domino masks can actually hide the Incredibles' identities. At least Frozone has a full hood. Speaking of, we can give him the Boots of the Winterlands, which give him resistance to cold, both damage and climates down to negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit, as well as improving traction, so he can ignore difficult terrain created by ice or snow. We can also make Gloves of Swimming and Climbing, which let Bob swim and climb without spending extra movement, along with adding 5 to his athletics check to swim or climb. Let him use all that muscle to get a little bit more mobility. At 11th level we can store spells in items to be cast later. The spell has to be either a 1st or 2nd level Artificer spell, and has to take a single action to cast. Then we can put it into a weapon, or something we can use as a spellcasting focus, like, say, one of our infusions. All that together means we can put Invisibility into Violet's supersuit, either the Boots of Elvenkind or the Enhanced Defense. Now, Invisibility in D&D works slightly differently than it does in the Incredibles movie. It automatically affects the wearer's clothes, so she doesn't technically need this, but it is a thing that Edna did, so I wanted to include it. We'll round off our Constitution and Charisma to 12 and 16 respectively, and pick up 4th level spells. The Artillerist gives us Wall of Fire and Ice Storm, but I'm more interested in Fabricate, which converts raw materials into a finished product, vastly increasing our crafting speed, though we can't fabricate magic items. And since we've got expertise with the relevant tools, we can even make clothes, shoes, and leather goods with high craftsmanship. 14th level Artificers become Magic Item Savants, letting us attune to up to 5 magic items at a time, and making us the ultimate product tester by letting us ignore class, race, level, and spell requirements for attuning. Our last Artificer cantrip can be Message, sure, why not? And our last 2 infusions are the Bracers of Defense, which boosts the wearer's AC by 2 while they aren't wearing armor, and the Boots of Speed, to give Dash some proper running shoes that double his walking speed and give enemies disadvantage on opportunity attacks against him for up to 10 minutes a day. Proper arch support. It works wonders. Switching gears now, we'll actually finish the build off as a wizard. Arcane Recovery lets us regain expended spell slots on a short rest, getting back up to half our wizard level in slots once per day. For cantrips, we'll take Friends to bulldoze our way through a conversation to get what we want, then Light and Prestidigitation. Now, wizards get a lot of spells, so feel free to pick out your favorites. The main one I want is Mage Armor, which makes a creature's AC 13 plus their Dexterity modifier for 8 hours, as long as they aren't wearing armor. This does stack with the Bracers of Defense, incidentally, so we can give this and those to whoever has the best dexterity, maybe Dash or Helen. We can also pick up Comprehend Languages, since we are an international fashion icon. Being able to understand our clients might be useful. At second level, we'll do a hard swerve and become an Artificer once again. Not jumping back to the class though, this is the Unearthed Arcana Artificer subclass for the Wizard, which I believe does predate the Artificer class in 5e. We can infuse scrolls and potions. When we finish a short rest, we can use our Arcane Recovery to make a scroll instead of regaining spell slots. We make a scroll for a spell that we know, then deduct that spell's level from the total level of slots we can regain with Arcane Recovery. The reduction lasts until we long rest after the scroll has been used. To infuse a potion, we spend 10 minutes with a vial of water and expend a spell slot, the level of which determines what the potion does. We then lose access to that slot and can't get it back until that potion is used or a week passes, when the potion loses its potency. We can have 3 potions at one time, and if we try to make a 4th, then the earliest one that we made also loses potency. The potions and scrolls, though, aren't in character. They're not clothes. I could see justifying the water-breathing potion as a single-use rebreather or something, but really we're only getting this because I want something else later. There aren't any second-level wizard spells that I want, so pick your favorites, and I'll point out that between our 14 Artificer levels and 6 Wizard levels, we're going to end up as a 13th level spellcaster, with access to up to 7th level spell slots. With our last ASI, we'll bump one of our stats by 2. Capping Intelligence isn't bad, but I'm going to go for Constitution, because Edna definitely pulls all-nighters when she gets in the zone, so we need the Endurance. The last spell I'll talk about is Protection from Ballistics, which makes a creature resistant to bullets. It's concentration based up to 10 minutes, which isn't ideal for Edna since we tend to not be in the middle of the fight, but her clothes are bulletproof, so again, just wanted to get it in there. Our capstone is the 6th level of Artificer Wizard for Infuse Weapons and Armor. Just like Infuse Potions, we can spend 10 minutes in a spell slot to make a weapon, bundle of ammunition, or piece of armor magical. There's a couple of options here, but since we make clothes, we mostly only care about spending a 6th level slot to make a second suit of +2 armor. We can only make one item at a time, and it stops being magical after 8 hours. Now that the build is complete, the question becomes, how good is it? Well, being able to outfit a whole team with magic items is pretty neat. The AC boost alone from having 2 sets of +2 armor and bracers of defense are worthwhile, not to mention all the miscellaneous benefits our infusions can give. The ability to construct nearly anything given the right raw materials is pretty cool too, as anyone who's been playing Tears of the Kingdom can attest. Fabricate is one of the most versatile spells in the game, even if the only things we can do more than rough work with it are clothes and, well, actually wood items as well because we have Woodcarver's tool proficiency. And if we really need to get into the fray ourselves, we do have decent offensive capabilities, most notably with AoE effects like Fireball, Ice Storm, and our Flamethrower Eldritch Cannon. On the other hand, it's unfortunate that we can't have all of our infusions active at once, meaning that we have to pick and choose what to hand out. I know that's pretty standard, even with like preparing spells, but since our whole character is based around giving out items, it hurts to not be able to give out all of them. We also have to treat our spell slots as a little bit more of a resource than normal, since we can burn them to summon our Eldritch Cannon multiple times, and use our infusing abilities from our wizard levels, on top of, just using them to cast spells. And finally, the limits we put on what infusions we could take are, well, limiting. Clothes of Mending are fun and flavorful, but there are so many busted infusions we could have taken instead. Even just among the capes we could have taken, there's the Cloak of Protection, Cloak of the Manta Ray, and Cloak of the Bat, which are all super solid.
What do I do?
What are you talking about? You are Elastigirl! My God, pull yourself together! What will you do? Is this a question? You will show him you remember that he is Mr. Incredible, and you will remind him who you are. Well, you know where he is. Go, confront the problem. Fight. Win! And call me when you get back, darling. I enjoy our visits.
Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you enjoyed the build. No poll this week. Next time is a particularly evil Patreon request. If you have any feedback or suggestions for characters you'd like to see me build, please leave them in the comments below, and they could show up in a future poll. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more, and if you want to support what I'm doing here, you can check the description for the link to my Patreon, for access to the Discord channel, early access to future builds, and exclusive Patreon content. Thanks again for watching. I will see y'all later.